Hi, I'm Calista. I break down the dating games, the psychology and the power plays, so you never get blindsided again. You're told not to react, not to chase, to go quiet, but you're probably wondering why that actually works. Today we're diving into the psychology behind it, and trust me, once you understand this, you'll never chase anyone again. So, he's pulled away, gone quiet, and right now your instincts are screaming at you to do something, text, check in, fix it. But before you do, I want to show you why doing nothing is the most powerful move you can make. I remember the first time I actually stayed silent when someone pulled away. It was hard. Every part of me wanted to reach out, to ask what happened, to fix it, but I didn't. I sat with the discomfort and watched how quickly the energy shifted. That moment taught me everything about the power of emotional self-control. So, why does that work? Why does silence, not pleading, not performing, not explaining, get his attention more than any emotionally charged message ever could? Well, it's not magic, it's psychology, and once you understand it, you'll never waste your energy chasing again. Let's break it down. Let's start with something simple, but so very powerful. One concept that explains a lot about human behaviour, and that's scarcity. When you go quiet and stop being available like you once were, he notices, because suddenly what felt easy now feels rare, and the brain automatically assigns more value to anything that feels scarce. It's called reactance theory. When our access to something gets restricted, we want it more. Not always because of how special it is, but because we don't like the idea of losing access. So when a woman pulls her energy back, when she's not just a text away anymore, when she's calm, quiet, and no longer emotionally on tap, her value doesn't drop. It rises. It reignites his desire, because now he sees you in a different light. He starts to miss what he no longer has easy access to. Not because she's playing hard to get, but because she's not easy to get anymore. And suddenly, what he once took for granted feels like something he has to earn again. Now let's go a bit deeper into the kind of psychology that makes people obsessed without even realizing it. This one's called intermittent reinforcement. Intermittent reinforcement is one of the strongest psychological hooks known to human behaviour. And yes, it plays a huge role in dating. It's what keeps people addicted to slot machines or obsessing over inconsistent partners. Here's how it works. When attention, affection, or communication is unpredictable, when it comes and goes randomly, it intensifies your emotional investment. Your brain starts chasing that next hit, trying to solve the pattern. It creates obsession. Now flip that. When you go quiet after he's been inconsistent, you become the source of unpredictability. The dynamic reverses. And suddenly he's the one wondering, why isn't she reacting? What happened to the girl who was always available? That uncertainty pulls his attention back in, not because you played a game, but because you removed the dopamine hit he got used to. You stopped feeding the pattern, and now he's refreshing your story views like he's pulling a slot machine. Texting again, trying to get a reaction, because your silence disrupted his sense of control, and now he's chasing the connection he once took for granted. Let's keep going, because now it's time to talk about the ego. Most men expect that if they pull away, you'll chase. You'll ask if they're okay. You'll try to fix it. So when you don't, it hits his ego. Silence after a pullback is a psychological interruption. It creates a gap where he expects validation and gets none. That forces him to confront a possibility his ego wasn't prepared for. Maybe you're not sitting around waiting. Maybe you have options. Maybe he's the one at risk of being replaced. And the moment that thought creeps in, the game changes. Because now it's not about you proving anything to him. It's about him proving he still has access to you. Not because you're playing games, but because you're not willing to play at all. That's when the shift happens. He goes from passive to active, from uncertain to curious, because the ego doesn't like being ignored. A man's ego is fragile when it comes to perceived rejection, and when your silence suggests you're unbothered, that rejection hits hard, and the instinct is to reclaim that validation, which makes him come back around. Next, let's talk about one of the most powerful psychological tools there is, pattern interruption. Because silence doesn't just trigger emotion, it disrupts behaviour. And when you break the pattern someone's used to, you instantly grab their attention. You see, if your dynamic used to be predictable, you always replied quickly, showed up emotionally, initiated plans, and then suddenly, you don't. That shift jolts the system. It forces him to pay attention because the version of you he took for granted isn't behaving the same way. It makes him pause, reassess, wonder if he pushed you too far. This isn't about manipulation. It's about disrupting the loop where you are doing all the emotional work and giving him space to actually feel your value. You become the contrast, and contrast is what makes people appreciate what they had. Once it's gone. I remember someone once told me, "You're acting different," and I just smiled and said, "I am," because I wasn't about to keep showing up the same way for someone who wasn't showing up for me. That tiny shift, me breaking my own pattern, changed everything. I once had a guy say, "You used to chase me so hard, and now you don't even seem to care." He wasn't wrong. I'd broken the pattern, and he didn't know what to do with the silence. That silence made him finally sit with the fact that he was no longer in control of the narrative, and it drove him crazy. Now let's move into something subtle, but huge. Silence removes validation, especially when someone's been acting out. Here's something most people don't realize. Attention is validation, even if it's negative. So when you send a long text about how hurt you feel, that's validation. When you keep checking in or watching all his stories, also validation. You're feeding the connection with your energy, which tells him he can be inconsistent, behave how he wants, and still have access to you. But when you go silent, you stop rewarding his bad behavior and inconsistency. You remove the payoff. You show that emotional disconnection leads to actual distance, and he'll get none of your energy, attention, or validation at all. And no, it's not punishment. It's you showing you have self-respect. Silence doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care about yourself more than you care about keeping someone comfortable in their bad behavior. And finally, let's end with this, the part most people overlook. The part that's not about him at all, it's about you. Going quiet doesn't just shift the dynamic with him, it recenters you. Instead of spiraling, you get your power back. Instead of chasing his attention, you refocus on your own life. This creates emotional stability, and that's what gives you peace of mind. Because when you're calm and self-contained, you're not just more attractive, you're also more in control of what you're willing to tolerate. Your energy is no longer being leaked, trying to fix something that isn't yours to fix. Now he has to come forward with effort, not you handing it out like a free sample. And no, this isn't Costco. Your energy isn't something he gets to keep sampling without paying the price. You're not bitter. You're just done proving your worth to someone who couldn't see it. When you respond to distance with silence, not coldness, not attitude, just calm detachment, you give the situation space to reveal itself. Some men will come closer, others will disappear. But either way, you stay in your power. No chasing, no convincing, no begging someone to pick you, because the moment you stop trying to prove yourself is the moment they realize they could lose you. I remember the first time I held that silence and meant it. I was scared he'd forget me, but instead, he came back fast. And for the first time, I was the one seeing clearly. So next time he pulls away, don't react, don't explain, don't flinch. Just pull your energy back and let him wonder. That silence, it speaks louder than you think. See you in the next one. Until next time, stay calm, stay classy, and let them chase.